with marginal hands. My webcam has been messing up over here on OBS. It's been freezing. I don't know why. Hopefully this webinar works. We will see. Many people hate ace king and pocket jacks and hands like that. Ace queen, pocket tens, etc. because they play them terribly post-flop when the flop is not excellent for their specific hand. If they miss the flop, they don't know what to do. You're going to find that if you are constantly putting in too much money with hands that are marginal after the flop, you are making huge mistakes. And I don't want you to make mistakes. So in this webinar, you're going to learn how to play ace king when you fail to connect with the flop, which will happen a lot of the time. Get used to it. Also, you're going to learn how to pot control and bluff catch successfully. And also, we're going to be discussing how to prevent yourself from getting stacked when you are behind instead of just losing some chips. You got to realize, whenever you have a hand like jacks and it somehow makes the second best hand, hopefully you don't lose all your money. A lot of players put themselves in situations where they lose their entire stack almost every single time they have a premium pre-flop hand, and that is a big blunder. Before we move forward, do me a favor, click the like and subscribe button down below, click the notification bell. Let's get to it. First, you need to stop overplaying marginal hands pre-flop. Let's take a look at this. Here we have your under the gun 7-handed raise first in range versus a big blind's 3-bet. So you raise from under the gun, the big blind 3-bets you in a deep stacked game. Take a look at what you should do with all of your hands. You should re-raise aces and a little bit of pocket kings and some ace king offsuit. That's it for value. For your bluffs, you can have some ace X suited and some king X suited. Notice queens, jacks, tens, nines, ace king suited, ace king offsuit a lot of the time, even pocket kings, does not put in the 4-bet. So many people get it in their head that they need to be raising and re-raising and re-raising and re-raising with hands like queens, jacks, tens, etc. And that is a blunder. Is this tournament or cash game info? Both deep stack cash games and deep stack tournaments are essentially the same game. Now, obviously, there are a few subtle differences, but this concept certainly applies. If you have a hand like jacks and you think you're supposed to 4-bet it and 5-bet it when you raise with what should be a pretty tight range, and then your opponent, who should also have a tight range, 3-bets you, you're blundering. Next, let's take a look at this. Here we have the low jack raises, the cutoff 3-bets, and then the small blind 4-bets. So you raise the low jack seat, the cutoff 3-bets you, the small blind then 4-bets you, 100 big blinds deep. Take a look at what you should do now. You should fold everything. Except for aces, kings, ace king suited, and some ace 5 suited bluffs. Notice, queens folds, jacks folds. Now, I'm not going to necessarily say you should fold queens and ace king offsuit in the real world, but jacks is certainly a fold. This is one of the first things that young poker players learn. If you raise jacks, and then somebody 3-bets and somebody 4-bets, that hand goes straight into the muck. If you're confused about any of these ranges, definitely check out the PokerCoaching app. We have a PokerCoaching app. You can download it on your phone. It has the strategy of all players in these scenarios. Notice, though, this is a very important chart. A lot of people don't get it. When you raise with what should be a pretty strong range, the cutoff 3-bets you with what should be a pretty strong range. Then the small blind 4-bets you with should be a super strong range. You have to fold almost everything. And if you don't, you're going to lose at poker. Number 2, you need to stop playing marginal hands aggressively after the flop. So many players think the goal of poker is to take down the pot. So they always bet because they don't want their opponent to get there, to improve. But this is a terrible strategy because what essentially happens is when you do have the best hand or when you get your opponent to fold, they usually are in pretty bad shape. And when they call, or worse, when they raise, you're often in horrible shape. So essentially, you get to pick if you would rather play a medium-sized pot with decent equity or a large pot with relatively little equity. Well, of course, you'd rather play a medium-sized pot with decent equity than a large pot with almost no equity. And by betting and raising and loading money into the pot after the flop with your marginal hands, that is what ends up happening. So when you have a marginal made hand after the flop, quite often you need to play it passively, keeping the pot small and also keeping your opponent's range wide. That's a very important point. You want your opponent in there with a whole lot of garbage when you have a marginal hand. Because if you make them fold all of their garbage, your marginal hand goes from being okay to pretty bad. Let's take a look at some examples. Here we have the ace-king offsuit, 40 big blinds deep. We raise it up. Button calls, big blind calls, flop comes. 9 of spades, 7 of clubs, 5 of spades. We have the ace of spades. What should we do? Take a second, think about it. Let me know if we should bet this or if we should check this. And if you want to bet, how much should we bet? With our 2 overcards, backdoor flush draw. Type it in the chat. Go ahead, I'll wait. Click the like and subscribe button while you're there. Also, we have a new poker coach at PokerCoaching.com. One of the biggest winners in all of tournament poker. We'll be revealing who that is at the end of this webinar. Maybe my chat program is behind. I know people are here. All right, I'm going to move forward. I'm going to tell you what you should do in this scenario. You should check. If you studied the advanced cash game course or the advanced tournament course at PokerCoaching.com, you should know in multi-way pots, when the board contains 3 cards, 10 or lower, and you are out of position, you should be checking the vast majority of the time. Sometimes 100% of hands. You may say, but if I have aces, aren't I scared of getting outdrawn? I mean, a little bit, but if you bet and get called or bet and get raised, it's miserable. With ace-king, if you bet and get called and bet or get raised, it's also miserable, especially when you have decent equity like the ace of spades. This time, though, this player bet, and this is a mistake. This is a mistake. You bet. Big blind. Check raise is small. Who would have thought? What should we do now? Aloso says you have position. We do not have position. The button has position in this hand. There are 3 people in this pot. So we bet. We get raised small. Now look at this point. Once we bet and get raised small, we probably have to call because we have to put in 20 to try to win a total of 110. Yuck. The problem, though, is that we shouldn't have bet to begin with. And the thing is that a lot of people end up playing this pot and losing this hand, and they think, oh, there's nothing I could have done. You know, they raised me small on the flop. I had to call, and then I got to the turn. I had to stick around. It's like, okay. But what ends up happening is they don't recognize that they should have just checked the flop to begin with. And this is a flop you should check very, very frequently. Anyway, we call. Turns to queen of spades. Opponent bets again. Easy call. You don't want to raise, because if you raise and they call you, you're going to be dead, or near enough dead. You won't be dead, but near enough dead. We call. Just try to get there. River's a 3. They go all in. We fold. And this player ended up bleeding out about half of their stack, right? They end up losing half of their stack, playing the turn and the river perfectly fine. They played pre-flop fine, the turn fine, the river fine. But they blundered the flop by betting. This little bet that a lot of you in the chat said you would have done cost this player half of their stack in this hand. And it's detrimental. And sure, you're not always going to lose the pot. Sometimes you're going to win. But this is a spot you just got to check. See what develops. Next, 8-7 suited. This hand was played a little bit better. We raise it up 30 big blinds deep. Big blind calls. Flop comes 9, 7, 4. Big blind checks. Should we check or bet? Type it in the comment section. This is a great spot to check it back. We have a very clear marginal made hand. Yes, it is very vulnerable to being outdrawn. Sure, it'd be nice to bet and get the opponent to fold out various hands that have relatively little equity like king-queen. The problem, though, is that if we bet and get called, or bet and get raised, our hand goes from being pretty decent to quite bad. Because what are they going to raise with? They're going to raise with 9s and good draws. How do we do against a range of 9s and good draws? Not very well. We beat the draws, barely, but we're crushed by the 9s. How do we do against a check calling range of maybe a similar-ish range? Also not great. But how do we do against the range of the opponent's entire pre-flop defending range when we go check? Because they have to stay in the pot with their entire range when it goes check on the flop. Against that range, we do great. So let it go check. On the 9-7-4 board with 2 spades, do we really have to call the check min raise on the flop? Yes. Pot odds exist, and we were in position. Turns to 2 of spades. Opponent bets. 2/3 pot. What if there was a diamond on the flop? It becomes better to bet. Look, anytime you have a backdoor flush draw, it becomes slightly better to bet, but I would still just check it. I mean, middle pair on a board that should be pretty good for your opponent's range, as it should be in this scenario, is almost always a hand you want to check. Middle pair wants to check and just get to the showdown. And that becomes even more true as the middle pair gets higher and higher, because then it's less likely to get outdrawn. I realize this one is kind of vulnerable to getting outdrawn, but just let it go check. Play a medium pot with our medium hand. They bet the turn. Easy call. Something a lot of people do wrong here is they raise, because they think, okay, the draw's missed. I probably have the best hand. I want to raise and make my opponent fold all of their draws. The problem with that is that when they don't fold, we're in bad shape. Not just bad shape, terrible shape. Do you want to be in terrible shape for all your money? No. River's an 8. Opponent goes all in for 2x pot. Oh, gosh. Opponent goes all in for 2x pot. Well, here, you're going to have to make a read. Here you have to ask yourself, is my opponent actually capable of 2x potting it with a bluff? Because notice, we do, to some extent, have a bluff catcher, but we do have a pretty good bluff catcher in that we block sets and 2 pairs very hard, right? Anytime you block nut hands your opponent could have, you should be way more inclined to call. Now, of course, the opponent could just have the Jack-10, which would make a whole lot of sense. I think this is a spot a lot of people just slam dunk easy call. They don't think twice about it. But it's a close spot. In general, as your opponent is more loose, aggressive, and battly, you should definitely call. As your opponent is more straightforward and not so bluff happy, especially for big bets, you should be way more inclined to fold. You'll find that some players are kind of loose, kind of splashy, but they never put all of their money in for like a 2x pot bet without the nuts. Other players will view this as a spot where they think that we have a lot of marginal stuff, which, to be fair, will very often be true. This is actually one of the best hands we can have here. So you can't go around folding the best hands you could have in a scenario unless you have a reason not to. In some player pools, though, people literally never bluff here. If they literally never bluff, then of course we can fold. Another problem is the opponent may be overvaluing something like 7-4 or 8-4 or ace-9, right? So you say we should call because we beat most of his range. The problem is he bet 2x pot on the river. You do not know what any player's 2x pot river betting range looks like. This is not just the range that he bets the turn and we call, because he's not going to bet everything for 2x pot all in on the river, right? He should be very, very polarized to either straights, sets, good 2 pairs, and bluffs. Now, you have to ask, are there a lot of logical bluffs? Well, yeah, there's a whole lot of logical bluffs. Flush draws and straight draws all exist. Would the opponent turn a hand like an 8 into a bluff or a 4 into a bluff? Some will, some won't. Long story short, I'm always calling this in game theory optimal worlds, but I could certainly see some times where I would find a fold in this spot. We call. They have 10-5 of hearts for a spicy one. Fold is a straight. Well, it's a straight draw this time. But again, this is a spot where it could be either way. Could certainly go either way in that spot. But very importantly, don't bet the flop. If we bet the flop and the opponent raises us, I mean, that's miserable already. Say we do call, the turn's a 2 and he blasts it, as he'll probably do with a flush draw, a junky one. We just got to fold. So by checking back, we allowed ourselves a chance to win this pot. Whereas if we bet the flop, very likely would have lost it. Two additional benefits of playing marginal made hands passively post-flop, just to reiterate. Number 1, it induces your opponent to bluff into a typically weak check-back range, right? Like that 10-5 suited, when it went check-check, the opponent's going to feel very inclined to bluff. Next, it allows you to realize your equity and improve your hand instead of having to fold out your equity to a strong polarized range of draws and premium made hands, right? Like that 8-7, by not betting the flop, we got to make 2 pair by the river, which will happen sometimes. Also, sometimes the opponent's not going to bluff the river. They're just going to let it go check, check, and we're going to win with a 7. So stop overplaying marginal made hands post-flop. Next, stop getting married to your hand on the river. Hands that are premium pre-flop, or on the flop or on the turn, do not always stay premium by the river. Pocket aces on a 9-8-7-6 board is not so good. Pocket sevens on a 9-8-7-6 board is not so good. You must constantly recategorize your hand into the categories we discuss at PokerCoaching.com. You have your premium made hands, hands that you're just happy betting and getting your money in with. You have your draws. You have your marginal made hands, like middle pair. And then you have your junk, which is trash. Okay? Recategorize your hands on a regular basis. A lot of people don't do this. They are incapable of doing this. I mean, with ace-king pre-flop, for example, they just think it's the nuts. So let's talk about a huge moneymaker that will help you avoid this. That is betting the river and then folding to a raise. Here we have ace-king suited. This hand was another mistake. If the opponent had checked the river in the previous hand, would we have gone for value on the river? Yes, we would have. 2 pairs, great. Okay, we raise ace-king suited. Opponent calls 50 big blinds deep. Ace, 10, 9. They check. What should we do in this spot? Top pair nut flush draw, but, you know, we could lose to a few hands. You all like the nice new graphics. We're trying to make things pretty. We're always experimenting. Sometimes a little too much. If you knew how much time I've spent on these graphics, you would be shocked. Check raise. You cannot check raise. We're in position. This is the spot where we're definitely going to bet. We have the best hand by a mile. We go for a third pot. I can be convinced bigger's even better. You got to realize, like, our hand is so good here to the point that we really want to keep the opponent in. So we go 2 big blinds. If you went 3, fine. If you went 4, fine. This is not a spot to check, though. You want to get money in the pot with your best hands, and this is one of our best hands. Opponent calls. Turns to 3 of hearts. Opponent checks. What should we do now? By the way, a lot of you are saying raise. You cannot raise if no one bet. Let's talk about poker terminology while you all are telling me what to do on the turn. A raise is when there's already a bet in the pot that you must match. Right now, for example, the big blind cannot raise because there is no bet for them to match. The bet is 0. 0 is not a bet amount. Well, it is an amount, but it's not a bet amount. So if you're the first person to put money in the pot voluntarily on the flop, the turn, or the river, you are betting. You are not raising. Before the flop, though, you're raising because you have to match the big blind. There's already one big blind bet in the pot, right? Poker terminology is important, so we all know we're saying the same thing. A raise is way stronger than a bet, right? Because if someone bet, it implies they like their hand or range. If there is no bet, then you're betting into a random range, right? Okay, turns to 3 of hearts. We want to bet big on this very dynamic board. We discuss this thoroughly in the advanced cash game course at PokerCoaching.com and the advanced tournament course at PokerCoaching.com. Make sure you check it out. When the board contains a straight draw and or a flush draw that the opponent could reasonably have, but no straight or flush yet, with your best made hands that are vulnerable to being outdrawn, you pretty much always want to bet big, as we do here. So we go pot. You could even go over pot, really. Opponent calls. River's a jack of hearts. Opponent checks. How much should we bet on the river? Pot's 30K. We have 36K. 037 says, check back. Scared of the jack. Is anyone else here brave enough to type in what they would bet in the spot? 0. Kind of like a check back. Good. This is a great spot to check it back. This is not a spot to bet for value and try to get paid. It is so easy on this jack of hearts for us to be beat. Sam says, check, he has a flush or a straight. Look, you do not know what a random hypothetical opponent has in this scenario. Why could they not have ace-queen? Why could they not have ace-4? Why could they not have 10-7? Why could they not have a busted flush draw. Obviously, they could have all of that. So don't say things like, he has a straight or a flush. You don't know that. You have no clue. But the jack is really bad for us and really good for him. Or her, whoever it is. The jack is excellent for them. The heart is obviously not good for us. They could, of course, have a flush. So this is a spot where we have the best hand a lot of the time. I don't know how often, but certainly a lot. We expect to have the best hand in this scenario. If no more money goes in the pot. If it goes check, check, we're going to win this a lot. If we bet and get called, do we win more than half the time? Maybe, maybe not. If we bet and get raised, I don't know, probably not. So yeah, this is a spot where just let it go check, check. However, this player decided to bet for value. They thought, I have the best hand, I'm going to go for a half pot bet, which I suppose is a decent size if you want to bet, because we are trying to get called by a relatively marginal hand. And the opponent goes all in. Now, at this point, it's a super easy fold, right? Whenever you bet the river with a marginal made hand and get raised, you just have to fold. What about betting really small? If you've studied at PokerCoaching.com, you know that on the river, in position, the smallest bet size you ever really want to make is something like half pot, unless there are big payout implications. Betting small in position, while it does extract a tiny bit of value, it also gives the opponent the option to reopen the action, which puts you in a roughly neutral spot if the opponent plays well, which is not good for a lot of money. You don't be making a guessing game for a lot of money. So either your hand's good enough to value bet, or it's not. There is no merit in betting tiny in this scenario on the river. From out of position, you can bet tiny, because the action's going to be open already. But when we're in position, we have the option just to check it back and realize our equity every time. Are there ever cases for betting marginal made hands? Sure, if you want to bet with your entire range, because your range is so incredibly good compared to your opponents, you should be betting with a lot of your range, including everything. All right, we get raised here all in. I would just fold. It sucks, but I mean, are we ever good? Are we literally ever good here? 20K more to win 100. Are we good 20% of the time? I mean, I highly doubt it. People saying you're pot committed. Pot committed means you have greater than 20% equity. You think we have greater than 20% equity here? I would be shocked if we have the best hand more than like 3 or 4% of the time. You got to realize, in this spot, your opponent should probably think you have a pretty good hand. Do they really think you're going to fold for 20K more? Like, no, that's ridiculous. Now, look, in GTO world, the best players in the world will find some bluffs. But, I mean, I don't think any player in any normal game is going to find bluffs in this spot. I'm trying to think if I would call with 2 pair here. Like, if I had ace 9, I'd probably still just check back on this river because it's really bad. What about ace 10? I'd maybe value bet the river with ace 10. If I bet ace 10, I would have probably just gone all in, although maybe half pot's okay. To be fair, I don't even think this is a good spot to bet half pot. You probably just want to shove the river or check it back. Should we bet bigger on the turn to avoid this spot? If we bet bigger on the turn, we still would have checked back the river. We should have checked back the river is what should have happened. No, I think we have nowhere near 20% equity in this scenario. I don't know what it is, but it's probably like 2 or 3%. Sure, people make crazy plays sporadically. I get it. I'm not going to think that's anywhere near 20% of the time, though. Our hero decided to call it off here, thinking, oh, pot committed. No, you're not pot committed. Pot committed means you have the correct equity to call. I have a question. What if we bet the river with 7-6? Say we had 7-6 of spades and bet 20K on the river. Are we pot committed? No, obviously not. What if on the river, instead of betting 15K, what if we bet 35,000 on the river with 7-6? Are we pot committed? You got to call 800 to try to win 100 something. 800 to try to win, can't even count this high, 100. 800 to try to win 100. We only need to be good 1 in 100 times. You think 7 high is good 1 in 100 times? No, obviously it's not. You're not pot committed. You fold. The sunk cost fallacy is a thing that makes people think that because they have a lot of money in this pot, they have to stick around and defend it. I don't think there's a whole lot of a difference here between ace king and 7-6. Sounds crazy. Obviously there is a difference, but I don't think the opponent's bluffing. Like, most people just don't bluff here. If he leads on the river into us, do we call? Depends on how big he leads. Anyway, we bet. Guy shoves. They have a flush. Who'd have thought? Who could have possibly foreseen that one coming? Let's go through another hand. Pocket queens. We raise it up. Big blind calls. Playing very deep. 100 big blinds. 9, 6, 4. They check. You'd have shoved all in on the turn to take it down. That's exactly what I said you should not do. Did you literally read this? Look. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Too many players are focused on taking down the pot. Big, big, big mistake. Yeah, you would take it down, but what about when they have 2 pair or a set? You're in terrible shape. You can't 3x pot, 4.5x pot the turn in this spot, because when you get called, you're going to be drawing to a flush. And that's not good. All right, in this scenario, we're going to bet the flop. We have the best hand by a mile. Oops. Oh my gosh, I've screwed this up. Here we go. Let's try again. 9, 6, 4. We bet, kind of big. Opponent calls, turns a jack. They check. We can definitely value bet again. We pot it on this very dynamic board. Lots of straight draws. Then there's a flush draw. So we're going to be betting big. Also, we're deeper stacked. You typically want to be betting bigger in general. River is 10 of spades. Opponent checks. Should we value bet? I think value betting here is pretty reasonable. We have the best hand a ton. I think a half pot bet's pretty nice. We can easily get called by a whole lot of worse hands. I mean, that's really the question here. Will your opponent ever call when lots of draws miss with a 9, a jack, or maybe or a 10 if they have one? And I think they probably will. I think a lot of people don't go for thin enough value, especially when they're playing kind of deep stacked. And if we do bet here, and then they raise, kind of like the previous hand, just fold. Now, look, I don't think the last hand was so nice for us because of how badly the board ran out. Notice here, though, we blocked the straight with king-queen, and random queen-8 if they could have it. Also, the backdoor flush did not come. So that's a lot of the combinations we would naturally lose to that we now beat. You bet 80%. So here, I think we want to bet on the smaller side, like 50%. Let's see what this player did. They did go 50%. You're going to find that typically one pair hands that go for value on the river on kind of connected boards don't want to go too big. If you start betting big, like pot, or 80% pot, you're going to make a lot of the 9s and maybe even 10s that you want to call you fold. So if you are making hands like a 9 or a 10 fold, well, you're not getting value from a whole lot of stuff, right? Whereas when you bet half pot, those hands will look you up. It does seem like a lot of you all in the chat are very, very afraid to go for value. Don't be afraid to go for value. And look, right here, if we bet and get raised, we can just fold. It's easy. It's trivially easy. Because think about our range here. Could we have the nuts? Do we have a lot of nuts in our range? Like sets and 2 pairs and straights? Obviously we do, right? So the opponent can't get too overly aggressive putting in the raise in this scenario, even with hands like 2 pair. Anyway, they go all in. We fold. Move on with our life. Easy game. It's okay. People saying bet 30% on the river. We literally just discussed this. The smallest bet size you should use on the river in position is roughly 50% pot, assuming there are no payout implications. But what do they have? I don't know. You're not always going to know. That is okay. So those are 3 huge mistakes to avoid when playing marginal made hands. Again, stop overplaying them pre-flop, stop playing the marginal made hands aggressively post-flop, and stop getting married to your hand by the river. If you can plug these 3 leaks, you're going to make way more money at the table with ace, king, and jacks, and you're going to start to love those hands. Before we wrap it up today, I have an exciting announcement to share, and that is that PokerCoaching.com has a new tournament coach. Y'all want to play a game? Let's have some fun. I'm going to show you a poker player from the all-time money list, along with that player's lifetime earnings. And you can tell me if you think our new coach has higher lifetime earnings, lower lifetime earnings, or if you think that is our coach. Jamie Gold. You think that Jamie Gold is the newest coach at PokerCoaching.com. Type H if you think our new coach has a higher lifetime earning than 12 million. Type L if you think they have lower. Or type C if you think it's our coach. I'll spoil this one for you. It's not our coach. If you have any guesses, might as well type them in the chat too. H, coach! The ADHD Santa. Okay. Oh, you all are having too much fun. This is not our new coach. They have more lifetime earnings than 12 million. What about Martin Cabral? Also 12 million. A little bit more, though. Is that more? It is more. 5,000 more. You think that's our new coach? Martin Cabral is not the coach. Our coach has higher than 12 million in lifetime earnings. What about, the handsome Patrick Antonius? I will tell you, I've played with Patrick only a few times. This was many years ago, 10, 12 years ago. And I was so incredibly intimidated. I've only been intimidated playing against two people, like overly intimidated. This was back when I was a much younger poker player. That was Patrick Antonius and Phil Ivey. Patrick Antonius is not our coach, but our coach has more earnings than $12.6 million. Not 12, 21. Being dyslexic over here. What about Bryn Kinney? He has 65 million in lifetime earnings. You think more, less, or is he our newest coach? I don't think it's going to be higher than Bryn Kinney. I think Bryn Kinney has the most. No, it's not Bryn Kinney. It is not Bryn Kinney. What about the best poker player on the planet, maybe the universe, Phil Hellmuth? He has 30 million in lifetime earnings. That's pretty strong. 30 million in lifetime earnings, only 2.6 million for the biggest cash. That's strong. Unfortunately, our coach is not Phil Hellmuth. I could not afford to pay Phil Hellmuth, the absolute greatest poker player in the entire galaxy, to coach for me. That's okay. Maybe we'll get him next time. What about Dale Negreanu? Did we get Negreanu away from Masterclass to make a Masterclass for me? 52 million in live tournament earnings. 7th on the all-time money list. Did we get Negreanu? I like Negreanu. It is not Dale Negreanu. Lower. All right, what about the other player who intimidates me to death? Phil Ivey, 11th on the all-time money list with $42 million. Higher or lower? You all are funny in the chat. Is Phil Ivey our coach? Phil Ivey is not our coach, but our coach does have more earnings than $42 million. What about, we're running out of people. What about David Peters? 45.8 million in lifetime tournament earnings. 10th on the all-time money list. You think I'll ever get to 10th on the all-time money list? Probably not. I got some work cut out for me. Gonna have to go win some Triton tournaments. It is David Peters. David Peters is the newest coach at PokerCoaching.com. He's a super crusher. He's been around forever. I like David Peters. He's very, 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 very good at poker. David Peters is not just a world-class poker player, but an excellent human, a fun guy, and he gets the job done. David Peters is tough to play against, too. I don't know how, but David Peters plays, like, obviously more than his fair share of pots, yet somehow, some way, he always has the nuts against me. It's tough. So, huge welcome to David Peters as the newest poker coaching coach. And in his debut series, David Peters is going to reveal all sorts of tournament secrets by reviewing many of his interesting hands, including hands that he just played in Jeju at the $30,000 buy-in final table. I actually just watched the video right before I made this webinar, and it's cool. He talks about, in this scenario, lots of short stack intricacies whenever players are playing very short stacked at the final table. He also has a recent run in one of the big online tournaments that he had. He's going to be going through as well, where he's not so tiny stacked. He gets in there. He battles hard. We're going to have a lot of content from David Peters on PokerCoaching.com, in addition to all the other coaches we've been racking up. You cannot buy this high-stakes tournament secret series, though it is not for sale. The only way to get access to it is to become a Poker Coaching Premium member. And fortunately for you, we're having a spring sale. Buy 2 months, get 1 free. Check it out at PokerCoaching.com/spring sale, and you can save up to $1,000 on your Poker Coaching membership. So, Poker Coaching Premium currently includes the High Stakes Tournament Series by David Peters. Also, you also get exclusive access to another course we just made from Shannon Shore. I actually roomed with Shannon Shore and David Peters in Malta about, 15 years ago. Somebody can look it up. David Peters won the $25,000 buy-in tournament in Malta. I took minimum cash in Malta. We went out and partied all night, me, Shannon, and David. We went to bed at about 6 a.m. And David Peters was up playing the Sunday kickoff, a $100 buy-in tournament at 8 a.m., 2 hours later. I didn't wake up until about 7 p.m. the next day. It was crazy. David Peters is a grinder, an absolute sicko grinder. So anyway, in this series, Shannon reveals how to play all the stages of a tournament, and he discusses lots of strategic adjustments he makes throughout the tournament by going through a hand history he played in the GG WSOP monster stack. He shows all sorts of baseline strategies, but also how to adjust to take advantage of the mistakes your opponents are making. Also, in Poker Coaching Premium, you get access to my 180-part tournament masterclass. This is a gigantic course that will teach you everything you need to know to play all the common spots in tournament poker. It's 180 10-minute or so long videos with quizzes after each part to make sure you are fully learning and understanding how to play fundamentally sound poker. If you've not gone through this masterclass yet, this is the place to start if you want to get good at poker. I also have a new series I just uploaded. Poker Coaching coaches have been crushing it recently, myself included. That's lucky. We go through my high stakes tournament win, where I go through all the hand histories, or all the key hands that I played when I was winning the $25,000 buy-in Poker Go trophy for the Poker Go Cup. And this course will prepare you for your next deep run. There it is. Yeah? What do we have next? World Series is here. We have the Crush WSOP course that will help you level up your tournament skills in 30 days, because World Series of Poker is going to be here in less than 30 days. You better get to it. This course will get you prepared to crush the games. Our coaches are going to take you through all sorts of spots in tournaments, discussing pre-flop, post-flop, ICM scenarios, how to run deep in the main event, and a whole lot more. Speaking of running deep in the main event, Aram Zobian, final table to main event. He took 6th place. He also just won the tournament, the series in the Poker Go studio. I won the first one, the Poker Go Cup. He won the Poker Masters, and he got a gigantic eagle. I got a cup. He got a gigantic eagle. I kind of feel like I got the worst of the trophies, but that's okay. Aram goes through lots of hands that he played in the main event, where he ended up taking 6th place. We also have how to bink tournaments with Rampage and Brock Wilson. Brock Wilson may be the most studied poker player I know. This guy knows what to do, and he is doing his best to try to give some of this wisdom to Rampage Poker, but Rampage struggles. He just can't help himself. He just punts. I don't know what to tell him. I will say, he did start coaching with Brock, and he immediately won the next $10,000 buy-in tournament he played in the Poker Go studio. So that's pretty cool. Poker Coaching Premium members get access to that. Speaking of content from Brock, he has a great series discussing how to crush high-stakes games, where he discusses things like common in-position and out-of-position scenario spots you have to know from a game theory optimal point of view. He also discusses, well, look, to be fair, the way you beat poker is to learn how to play all the common spots very, very well. And Brock goes very deep, making sure he's not making little mistakes that will cost him money against the absolute best players in the world. So make sure you check out this course, especially if you're going to be playing against tough players. Did you all know that while I do love making content for all of you at PokerCoaching.com and hiring all these coaches, I also do it for myself. I go through all of this content, and I wanted to hire Brock. I wanted to hire Shannon. I wanted to hire David Peters. I, Jonathan Little, want to learn from these people. And I am happy that I have the opportunity to share it with all of you. We also have over 800 classes. These are 30-minute long to hour-and-a-half long videos on very specific topics. For example, how to crush multi-way pots, in-position c-betting. Part 3. When to lead the turn by Jonathan Jaffe. When to triple barrel bluff by Lexi Gavin. We have all sorts of classes. We have a search bar here. You can literally type whatever you want right here. And there's probably a course, or there's probably a class on that specific topic. And if there's not one, send us an email and we will make it. We also have the advanced tournament course featuring lots of coaches mentioned so far. Here we have Jonathan Jaffe again. Also, Justin Saliba. Justin Saliba has been absolutely crushing the games. He is the maestro at PokerCoaching.com. He puts together a lot of the content we have. We also have Matt Affleck. We go through everything you need to know to crush tournaments. I enjoyed making this course and learning from all the other coaches. So that's the first bonus. If you sign up right now, you get the advanced tournament course. The second bonus is that every month, twice a month, for 5 years, I coached a group of students, and they gave me permission to record all of our sessions. These are private coaching sessions, private group coaching sessions. These videos are not for sale, but if you sign up to Poker Coaching Premium during the spring sale, you will get access to all of these recordings. Also, if you sign up to Poker Coaching Premium, you're also going to get a free 1-year subscription to PokerGo. I love watching PokerGo. I love playing on PokerGo. I'm going to the PokerGo studio on Sunday. There's going to be a little tournament there I'm going to be playing. I love going there. I love playing there. I love battling there. And I love watching all of the content they put out. They do an amazing job promoting the game. And, well, if you're a Poker Coaching Premium member, you get PokerGo included. So that's what we have available. Here is the offer. You get all this stuff. By the way, we just talked about tournaments here. We also have a ton of cash game content as well. Not even going to go into that today. But if you're a cash game player, as much as the tournament stuff we have here, we have about as much cash game stuff too. Here's the offer. $100 a month if you want to pay monthly. Then you can start to get a discount. If you want to sign up longer, you can get an entire year for $764, 56% off. That seems like we're giving it away. Oh, that's fine. We'll give it away. We're going to stop doing discounts, by the way. Get ready for that. You better lock it in. If you're still on the fence, don't decide now. Just say maybe. You can try Poker Coaching Premium completely risk-free for 30 days. And if you are not thrilled with your purchase during the next 30 days, let us know by sending an email to support@pokercoaching.com within 30 days of signing up, and we will give you a full 100% refund. If I do not help you improve your poker skills, I do not want or deserve your money. Simple as that. This is not a site where you sign up for $3,000 for 12 hours of content. This is not a site that just uploads sporadic random videos on all sorts of nonsense topics. This is not a site where you just watch people play and talk about whatever they feel like. The content here is structured, thoughtful, and designed to help you get excellent at poker. So, if that's what you want, that's what we have. Check it out at pokercoaching.com/spring sale. You should incorporate a solver coach. Are you kidding me? Literally, Brock Wilson's content is on that. Very first section, Introduction to Power Reviews. Also, Justin Saliba. Do you know Justin Saliba's name online? It is just GTO. We also have Michael Acevedo as a coach who literally wrote the book, Modern Poker Theory, that goes through all sorts of GTO stuff. Where's Modern Poker Theory? Here it is, right here. I helped put the book together. Look at all this solver stuff. If you think we don't have solver stuff, you are obviously not aware of what we have at PokerCoaching.com. May have a whole lot more with solver stuff in the very near future. Stay tuned for that. Anyway, Michael Acevedo, one of our coaches, wrote Modern Poker Theory. If you have any questions about the offer here, feel free to send us an email at support@pokercoaching.com. Do you think they're going to remove the big blind ante? Do you think if they remove the big blind ante, heads up, it will make it better? I actually kind of like playing big blind ante heads up because it forces you to play almost every pot. without an ante, you get to fold some, and I kind of like getting in there and battling. I love battling. It's fun to play overly wide ranges, and the big blind ante forces you to do that. By the way, we have GTO preflop charts for heads up with an ante and heads up without an ante. So we have GTO charts available on PokerCoaching in the app and on the website for all that. A site like the Wizard. Oh, be patient, be patient. That's me for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Again, click the like and subscribe button if you did. I appreciate each and every one of you being here. Also, check out the spring sale if you're not already a PokerCoaching member. We work tirelessly for many, many hours putting this site together for you, and I hope you enjoy it. Good luck in your games. Have fun. Make the most of your opportunities. Thank you all for being here, and I'll talk to all of you next time.